Hi, everyone.
Hi. Wanted to give a plug to an old help of ours. Back in the day when we were coming out, one of the most activist and useful sources of information on the Watchtower was Duane Magnani. I suppose the Italian pronunciation would be Magnani, but as far as I know, it's pronounced Magnani. And Duane Magnani was doing brochures and entire books with using primarily Watchtower materials, older and newer, to make the point that the Watchtower was not backing off its boldness about this generation, among other things. So in 1992, he published this little brochure, Doomsday 1999, in which he itemized some recent publications and photostated some of them to prove his point, including this one from the April 8, 1988 Awake, which by some coincidence is the day before we were disfellowshipped.
That's right.
What was the Watchtower doubling down on or hammering on still 13 years after 1975 debacle? Well, the last days, what's next? And they started with a direct quote from the New International Version of Matthew 24, verse 34. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. And the first subhead under the head is, how long can a generation last? And then they quote the American Legion magazine, for some reason, pointing out that 4,743,826 U.S. men and women had participated in World War I. I can see the connection now. But in 1984, only 272,000 of these persons who had participated in World War I were remaining alive, and they were dying off at an average of 9 every hour. Does that mean then that the generation of 1914 has already disappeared? And of course, in 1988, when this came out, no, they haven't disappeared. So you're not surprised that a couple of paragraphs later, they're hammering down on that a generation is rather flexible in its application. So they quote a J.A. Bengal in his New Testament word studies. He says the Hebrews reckon 75 years as one generation, and the words shall not pass away intimate that the greater part of that generation, of Jesus' day that is, indeed, but not the whole of it, should have passed away before all should be fulfilled. So I can't remember hearing about Bengal's 75 years when I studied back in 1970, because then it was a speculation that, well, 30, 40 years is a generation from 1914, but not all will have died yet.
They wanted you in.
So to talk about 75 years then would not have been helpful.
No.
But I do recall, well, what was the speculation when we were going through our doubting period? They were changing the understanding of how old you'd have to be.
Yeah, so it was, first it was, you had to be mature in 1914 to understand things, and then they dropped it down to about, I don't know, even 10 maybe. And then it got dropped down even further to being born, and then it was, if you are a twinkle in the eye of...
No, they never.
Oh no, they didn't do that one.
But I think by the end of the 90s, according to what we've heard anyway, since we weren't there anymore, it had got down to being born.
Yeah, born
shortly
in the
before
year.
that year.
Yeah.
So here's
the other thing that Bengal you said is 200 years old, although they don't give you a reference.
No page number, no reference to who this person is.
What book, even does it?
It's called today New Testament Word Studies, but the original title of it is Gnomon of the New Testament.
So they probably had to scrounge around to find somebody
who conveniently had a 75-year figure. Yeah. Bengal is a great Bible scholar, by the way, so I'm not dissing Bengal here. I'm just saying, isn't it kind of funny that they're coming up with this after the fact?
Yeah, it's when they need it. They go looking for something to support what they already are saying.
All right. Now they, in the next paragraph, say, likewise today, most of the generation of 1914 has passed away. However, there are still millions on earth who were born in that year or prior to it. And although their numbers are dwindling, Jesus' words will come true. this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. This is yet another reason for believing that Jehovah's thief-like day is imminent. So what events should alert Christians watch for? And I think the thing that startled me there when I reread it was Jesus' words will come true.
Yeah, so he's going to get the blame. They're making it sound as if Jesus has told you that it's this generation. You're going to see it.
What did Jesus say again? Well, he did use the words this generation, but he lived 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So to be accurate then, to say Jesus' words, shouldn't he have said that generation that would see the end? But I find that really troubling at this stage in my life, that they keep casting the blame back on Scripture and Jesus himself here. So the next subhead is peace and security soon. And I think the scripture we should read, which is 1 Thessalonians 5, 2 and 3.
Okay. For you yourselves know quite well that Jehovah's day is coming, exactly as a thief in the night. Whenever it is that they are saying peace and security, then sudden destruction is to be instantly upon them, just as the pang of distress upon a pregnant woman, and they will by no means escape. So the first problem is Jehovah's day, when all the New Testament manuscripts would say the Lord's Day.
The Lord's Day.
And I think this is also another example, like we saw in the previous video, where they try and obscure what the Bible is actually saying. The Christian reading it would see the Lord's Day and think about the second coming.
Visible coming.
Yeah.
As in Luke 21:27.
When you say Jehovah's Day, you're just thinking like Armageddon or something, like some big disaster.
Out of the blue.
Yeah. So it's obscuring the real meaning. The other problem is it's supposed to come as a thief. But the way the Watchtower has it is that you have all these signs and all these indications, and everything is very precise and laid out. It's like a thief left you a note, 2 weeks before to say, when you see this and this, you'll know I'm going to come. That's not a thief. And it's not sudden.
And by the way, who's it written to? This is not a book of prophecy, Thessalonians, generally. It's practical advice to Christians living in the first century in a specific place. Just like we said in the previous video about Luke 21, it's about a specific place and time, namely Judea, Jerusalem, and the Gentile times idea. But here you've got a congregation, a freshly formed congregation in Thessalonica, in what we call today Macedonia or Greece. And they are being warned. He says, you yourselves know quite well that Jehovah's Day is coming, he's a thief. So this reference to peace and security is something they have to find a hook for in their lives. It's not about 2,000 years in the future. It's not a prophecy of the last days, as indeed some of Daniel's and obviously Revelation prophecies are. But that's only part of the problem, that again they're taking a text that I was given back in 1971. I think the True Peace and Security book, which some of you will have read, came out around 71 when I was baptized. 5 books came out at one assembly. That was something.
Yep.
And I believe that was one of them. And we studied it after we studied the Truth book. And its point was that everything going on right now, including the riots in the streets, the burning of American cities like Detroit and Los Angeles, the youth rebellion, or even Richard Nixon's visit to China. The point of the speculation at that point was peace and security must be near, because look what's happening. Look what America and Russia and China are doing. The spirit in the air at the time was maybe peace and security's the plan for the very near future. So you need to get excited, and of course we did, because it was 1971 and 75 was coming. But here they're linking it to, well, things like Gorbachev, who is at this point ruling Russia, Soviet Union at this point, and this thing called Glasnost has already become international news. This Glasnost idea of the new openness in the Soviet Union. So they don't know, of course, at this point, that within 2 years the Soviet Union is going to fall, but they're linking the peace and security prophecy to this speculation.
Yeah. So, just using news events is they're using that to get the witnesses excited, and they do get excited. And then when it passes and nothing happens, they all suddenly have no memory. They just lose their memory.
Yeah. And deny at many points that they've even said anything. So we saw the effort the Watchtower's made to hush the 75 unsuccessfully, because recently they had to make a video showing it in assembly about the 75 speculation and blame it on the brothers. but we don't see any apology for this.
No.
This is linking the events of the late 1980s to a 75-year period, and if you do your math, you have 1914 plus Bengal's 75, 1989, that's when the Soviet Union began to crumble.
Yeah. Well, they're like movies, You're supposed to just come and go, and then you're supposed to forget them till the next one comes,
So how precise did the Watchtower actually get about how long was left? When was the outside limit of their horizon when it comes to how long this system of things can last? More about that in the next segment.